Need to put my microphone in front of me. Hello, everybody. Hello.
Hey, everybody, it's Karen Anderson here with April Fools. I know, right? Hey, everybody, Karen Anderson here with Aortic for this week's Week in Review. If you're not familiar with what that is, it is a review of everything we posted last week. So for those of you that are not on Facebook, not on some type of social media, we give you an opportunity to chat with us, to learn about all of the things that we posted. Last week, I feel like was somewhat of a quiet week. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but we're going to find out. We're going to go through this together. So don't forget to click a like below, click subscribe, click the little bell so you're notified every time we go live. We actually just added a live event, which I have yet to post, so you're the first to hear about it. We do have Dr. Stacy Fisher, cardiogeneticist, cardiologist, that's joining us next week, I believe. And we're going to be talking about, obviously, the aorta, some things that have to do with congenital heart defects. It is Heart Health Month, so a lot of heart-centric things we're going to be discussing. So that's why you want to hit the bell. So then you get the little ding, Aortic Hope is now live, and then you can join and watch and hang out. And don't forget, please, I encourage you, chat below. Sign in, chat, and whatever you say, be nice because it's living out here forever. So let's get started. Away we go. All right. Medical Monday was last week. We love our Medical Mondays because these blogs are typically written by our med students. They're variety stages of their medical studying career. Their medical learning could be their first year, could be their last year, could be a resident, could be a fellow. Who knows at this point? But on last week's, they decided to delve into the heart's most important structure, for us at least, and that's the aortic valve. And this tiny but powerful valve, it actually keeps your blood flowing in the right direction. We've talked about this before, and we're going to talk about it again. So really, by doing that, it ensures that the body gets all of that oxygen that it needs by making sure the blood flows the right way. But what happens when it doesn't function properly? That's a really good question, because if it doesn't function properly, it could lead to a lot of problems that could lead to even bigger problems. There's also this little thing called bicuspid aortic valve. And if you're new into this world, you might be thinking, what's a BAV? What's a bicuspid valve? We're going to talk about that as well, because that is considered a congenital heart defect. It is not something that you develop. You don't eat or smoke or drink or non-activity your way into this. You're not going to have a car accident and all of a sudden have a bicuspid valve. That is actually a defect that you're born with, so it's different. And let's talk about this and break it down in a couple ways that make it easy to understand. So, the anatomy, the gatekeeper of blood flow. That is what the aortic valve is, and it plays a really crucial role in your heart. It acts as the gateway between the heart and the rest of your body. Every time your heart beats, right? This small but mighty valve allows the oxygen-rich blood to flow from the left ventricle of the aorta, or the left ventricle into the aorta, without any backflow, or so it's supposed to. And we'll talk about that too in a minute. So where actually is the aortic valve located? So the valve sits between the left ventricle, which is the heart's powerhouse chamber, and the ascending aorta. So if you think about your heart and you have your aorta that comes out of it, it kind of sits right there, right there. The beginning of the ascending sits right there at the heart. And it's the last stop for blood before it leaves the heart to circulate throughout the entire body. So here's a fun fact. I don't even think I knew. Did you know that your aortic valve opens and closes about 100,000 times a day? 100,000 times a day. Now, I suppose if you work out a lot or if you watch a scary movie, it might open and close a little bit more, but that's like 36 trillion times a year. Now, multiply that by how many times you're alive. It's a lot of wear and tear on these valves, you know? So here's the anatomy of an aortic valve. And this is where the bicuspid part comes in. So valves, all of them, aortic, mitral, pulmonary, there's another one, can't think of it, tricuspid, I think, yeah. They're all made up of these three thin, flexible cusps, not cuffs, cusps. And they're like little flaps, okay? And, or leaflets, basically. And they open and close with each heartbeat. So there's three of them. They come together like a triangle. And these cusps, God, I swear today, it's because it's so cold out. My lips are like frozen. So you have the right coronary cusp of the leaflet, the left coronary cusp, and the non-coronary cusp. So when your heart contracts, we talked about this last week, systole, right? I think that's what we decided it was. The valve opens and allows the blood to flow out, but when it relaxes and then the valve closes tightly, that is preventing the blood to flow backwards. So it kind of comes together like three, just picture a triangle, three pieces, okay? The perfect coordination and timing of this keeps the blood moving efficiently through the entire circulatory system. So then what's a bicuspid valve? So let's think about the word bi for a minute. So that's two. And as I mentioned, the bicuspid aortic valve is a congenital condition. That means it only has two of these leaflets. It only has two. So kind of just like opens and shuts like this instead of having like a third. I can't make a third with my hand. But this is one of the most common heart abnormalities that exists. And it's in about 1 to 2% of the population. But you can actually have people with an uno cusp, which would be one. How that even works, I guess maybe out of the circle of the area that the valve takes up. Maybe it has a flap that just kind of moves in and out like that. I'm not even sure. You can have quad cusps. You can have four leaflets. So weird. That gets even rarer. But this would be the most common of a condition that is rare. And that because it only affects like 1 to 2% of the population. But why does it happen? Why does a bicuspid aortic valve even form? So during fetal development, if the valve fails to develop three separate leaflets, uh, instead what happens, two leaflets will fuse together, and that creates a two leaflet valve, bicuspid. Okay. The risks of having a bicuspid valve are, well, first of all, people can live with this for years and never even know that they had it. It's usually some secondary echo or a CAT scan, or you're feeling symptoms of something. It could be that you had pneumonia and a scan was done and they discover, oh my goodness, look, this person has a bicuspid valve. You usually don't feel symptoms of a bicuspid valve. You would not know if you had two or three leaflets, is my understanding. Of course, I'm not a doctor, so this is just what I'm conveying from what I've heard. They can work for years before you ever have a problem. If you have a problem, it's typically going to be one of these few problems. So it could be that you have aortic stenosis, and we have talked about this before in length. So stenosis means stiff. And that would mean that the valve starts to become stiff, and it can become stiff or not open fully, which would restrict blood flow because you form these calcifications on the leaflets, okay? Or your bicuspid valve could form aortic regurgitation. And that's kind of like, it means it's floppy. It's gotten really loose. It's not closing all the way. And that allows blood flow to leak backwards into the heart. And both of those things can happen even if you have a regular valve, even if you have three leaflets or cusps. So we're just discussing what can happen if you have bicuspid. The other thing that can happen with people with bicuspid aortic valves is you can develop an aortic aneurysm, and that's due to the difference that occurs in the blood flow, whether it's stiff and so When it opens, you're having less blood flow or it's floppy flow. And again, of course, an aortic dissection could link itself to, an aortic aneurysm could link to a dissection. So bicuspid aortic valve is already directly linked to aortic disease because your aorta can weaken over time. So anybody that has a bicuspid aortic valve or BAV needs to be followed by a physician. And I would be stunned if somebody out there found out they had this and then was never followed because of all these different things that can happen to your aorta due to having just two leaflets. But when should you seek medical attention? So, as I mentioned, most people won't even have symptoms at first. They're not going to know this for years. It's going to be this again, you had a scan and boom, you find this out. However, if issues with the valve start to arise, if you develop stenosis or regurgitation, you could experience some, I guess, slight chest pain or feeling of tightness, not necessarily pain. You could develop shortness of breath, could cause fatigue, maybe even arrhythmia. I wonder if it can cause some retention of fluid. So you could start having some of these types of symptoms, and regardless, you should be making your physician known. Okay. And uh, if there's something in your family, they may decide to send you for a scan, and oh, lo and behold, you find out that you have a bicuspid valve. If you know you have a bicuspid valve and these types of symptoms start to form, it's time to notify your doctor that possibly there's some changes going on that could lead to you finding out you have an aneurysm, right? So knowing your medical history doesn't mean you need to be on high alert. It just means you need to be aware of your body. And if you're sensing some changes or symptoms like this, you might want to consider reaching out to your physician and saying, hey, can we check this out? And if you've been already diagnosed with bicuspid valves, heart ultrasounds or echocardiograms are really essential to monitor the valve function and your overall aortic health. Why is aortic valve health important? And why are we talking about this? Number one, it's Heart Health Month, and it's Heart Valve Disease Awareness Day coming up very soon on the 22nd. So that's why we've been talking a lot this month about the aortic valve. So why aortic valve health is important? So your aortic valve is an extremely important structure in your heart, probably more important than the mitral valve or pulmonary, because this leads to where the blood flows out through the entire body. That's your big gatekeeper. That's your swinging doors. Okay. We need those doors to be operating. Early detection is key. So regular checkups, imaging tests can really help prevent life-threatening events. So if you end up forming an aneurysm, again, automatically, you should be being followed, right? Because we want to avoid dissections. Remember, aortic dissections are rare. I know to some of you who have had them, you're not thinking it's rare because it happened to you, but overall, it's rare. And aortic disease, valve disease, stuff like this, not so rare. So you kind of really want to stay on top of your follow-up appointments. There's a lot of options when it comes to fixing these things. Okay, if you get to the point in time where it's time for treatment, you could have aortic valve repair. You could have a replacement. So yeah, just having an issue with your valve doesn't mean that it has to be swapped out. It could actually be repaired. And a lot of us who have had dissections, we actually uh, we've had our valves resuspended, so they stayed in place. They stayed. We got to keep our natural tissue. They were just kind of like, I assume worked on and tightened and, you know, just made a little bit better than what we started with after the dissection. So all of these things are available for people that have severe valve disease. So just knowing that you have a bicuspid valve doesn't necessarily mean you have to immediately have surgery. It might not mean you need any intervention. It probably means you need to be monitored until the point in which your valve starts to have problems and it becomes severe, or it could be moderate to severe. It could even be less than that, because if you have Marfan syndrome or you have a known connective tissue disorder, they may want to intervene earlier. So again, no one answer fits all, and I'm not a physician, so there's all these options, and most of this information is listed in our upcoming Aortic Disease, the Patient Guide, our second book, since we know aortic disease is so much more prevalent. Um, one of the things that you can do to really help mitigate your situation is, which something you should be doing for yourself anyway, and that's just living a more healthier lifestyle. Manage your blood pressure. Can you imagine if you only have two leaflets, having blood pressure that's high and all of that force could create a wear and tear situation, just like it could if you have three leaflets. So, avoid smoking, manage your blood pressure. All of these things can really help protect your valve and your aorta ultimately. So, here's the key takeaway: your aortic valve is very small, but very mighty. It's like that swinging door, right? For the lifeline, the highway, superhighway of all that oxygenated rich blood. And so controlling the flow of life-giving blood throughout your body is crucial. It's very important. And so whether you have a normal tricuspid valve or a bicuspid valve, staying informed about your health is really going to help you catch problems early and stay ahead of any potential complications. And that's key. That's something that you can try to do. You kind of have a little bit of a hand in helping yourself manage this, right? Know your heart, know your health. And if you have a family history of valve disease and you've been diagnosed with BAV, you want to talk to your doctor about monitoring your heart regularly. And please know that they do understand now that bicuspid valves can be hereditary. So if you find out you have one, echocardiograms are just so non-invasive. Just have your families, talk to your physicians about having your families receive the same ultrasound. And early detection is part of the key of survival and preventing major things from happening. So that comes from Samantha, and we want to thank her so much for our Medical Monday. Okay. What's everybody doing?
Let's say hi to Velda, Christina, and Tom. Thanks for that weird beginning. We had a reverb issue. We should be on track.
I think reverb would sound kind of fun. I
Velda
think
says, my surgeon told me that my valves were normal, unlike me. Ha ha ha.
Hey, you said it. We didn't. Yeah, my valve's normal too, and mine got resuspended, but now mine's not liking me so much. But one of the things I wonder if people know, so we know if you have an aneurysm, they don't shrink. They just don't. Sorry, they don't shrink. But valves, if your valve, which can be trace regurgitation, for example, you have a trace amount of regurgitation, then it moves to mild amount. Then it can go mild to moderate, then moderate to severe, then severe, right? You can all forever have trace, and then for whatever reason, your body makes this change, and all of a sudden you're told, oh, I have mild to moderate regurgitation. Oh, don't freak out, because you know what? What if it's because you've been out of control a little bit with your blood pressure, but then you get it back under control? A year later, you could go in and have an ultrasound and it says now you're back to trace to mild. That shocked me. I was like, so your valves can get better? They're like, yeah, with good blood pressure control, your valves can be better. Who knew? So I've been as high as moderate, and now I'm back to mild to moderate. So I don't know what happened, but I'll take it. I'll take whatever's coming my way. That means I have prolonged valve replacement for a little bit longer. So those are things that, if that changes, you don't have to just accept it and start freaking out and maybe not moving anymore, not doing anything, which is what I did. And you can talk to your doctor about it and find out when can we get checked out again and see if it's changed. But at certain ages, it's very normal to find out the other three valves have a trace amount of regurgitation. And typically, mitral valve, you hear a lot of people talk about. If you ask me where that is in the heart, I cannot tell you. I do not know. It's someplace in the middle of the heart. So it's very normal as we age. Again, think about how many times those valves open and close in a day, let alone a year. These things are going to wear and tear a little bit. So it's normal. So that's that. All right. Moving on to Topic Tuesday. Okay. Again, another medical post from one of our upcoming budding physicians to be. And in honor of Heart Health Month, they're going to follow up again about aortic valve and talk about anatomy. We're going to really talk about anatomy and talk about the options that you might have for valve replacement. So when you're deciding whether to undergo aortic valve replacement, one of the most important decisions you're going to have to make is whether you receive a mechanical or a bioprosthetic, which means tissue valve. So each of them offers their own benefits, also some limitations. So let's talk about them and not talk about fallacies, not talk about opinions. We're just going to talk about what your options are. So here's a picture. You've got your aorta, pulmonary artery. This is a healthy mitral valve, for instance, okay? This is your aortic valve, and look, it's got tricuspid, it's got 3 leaflets. I'm just going to go with leaflets. It's got three cusps, leaflets. All right, we're learning. Here's the mitral valve. That looks like a big one. Then you've got a pulmonary valve. It's pretty tiny, but it still has 3. And you've got a tricuspid valve, okay? Boom, boom, now we know where they are. So this is your aortic valve, which is in here. I think they cut this open to show you since this is the aorta. So this comes around into here. All right, so here we go. This is one example, of what a mechanical valve could look like, okay? Here's a biological or tissue valve. So it is not taking a valve from a cow or a pig. This isn't like transplanting a human liver or kidney into a human and it looks like the thing. I always thought that they took a valve out of the heart and they put it into the human, right? That totally makes sense. I had no idea. For years, I was way into this community and I just assumed when people were getting pig and cow hearts, valves, that they were taking them from the cow, cut it out, cadaver, stick it in and sew it in. That's not it. Okay. It's a lining, but it's not what you think. It's amazing. The mechanical valve, we'll talk about that first, is made up of a very durable metallic material that makes it a lot less susceptible. Blooper reel. I'm telling you, what's wrong? I can't talk today. But that really makes it a lot less susceptible to wear and tear over time. And that's a really good positive. And they're longer lasting valve. They can pump for 20 to 30 years on average now. I know a lot of times people say maybe you get like lifetime usage. Let's talk about the realistic statistics and the numbers here. They're going to pump for about 20 or 30 years before they even start to exhibit the signs of some type of deterioration. Look, nothing lasts forever. Let's just say that. You cannot make that blanket statement and just expect it to be true across the board with all people all time. So for this reason, the fact that the longevity averages 20 to 30 years, they become typically a primary choice for people that are younger. Let's put the mechanical in them. You have a 28-year-old patient, you're hoping that you don't have to make any changes till they're, at least 48 or, 58, right? That's the thought. And this gives you another idea. This is a type of mechanical. So this is your leaflets. Interesting, right? There's only 2 here. Only 2 here. They have a suture ring, which is where I'm going to assume it gets sutured into place. And they have hinges here. So these things swing open and close like a door. So we were talking about the aortic valve is like the really important door to the superhighway where your blood flows. The main drawback to a mechanical valve, which is not an opinion, this would be the factual statement, is that they have a higher risk of causing small blood clots as the blood tends to touch that hard surface. So anytime blood touches anything, it can clot. It stops moving, boop, it can clot, okay? So these clots become dangerous because they can lead to a stroke or a heart attack. And blood is not constantly flowing through your body like this. It's boom, 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 boom. So there is an element of time. Do not ask me how long, because I do not know, where blood could end up just being on one of those swinging doors and it doesn't move. It takes no time at all for a little clot to form. And so if it lodges and blocks blood flow in the heart or the brain, you're at risk for a stroke, or you can be at risk for heart attack. So for this reason, anyone on a mechanical valve will be placed on a blood thinner such as Coumadin, otherwise known as warfarin. They're the same drug. That is the hefty duty drug. It's different than Eliquis, different than Plavix. It's got to be Coumadin, or otherwise known as warfarin. Okay. There's a picture of your Coumadin. I'm sure we'll get into it. I have a thought. If we don't, we'll talk about it. But alternatively, patients can actually also consider those bioprosthetic valves or tissue valves, which are made using tissue from either a cow, bovine, or a pig, porcine. I'm going to guess that's how it's pronounced, right? So these valves are coated with a non-immunogenic material so that your body's not going to reject the valve, and you're not going to have to be on an anti-rejection medication. Okay. But they have a much, much, much lower risk of a thrombosis or a blood clot forming on those valves because it's tissue. So when you take a tissue valve, you don't have to be on a blood thinner for the rest of your life because of the valve itself. You might need to for something else. Let's say you've suffered some TIAs or strokes and they have you on Eliquis, totally different. You are not going to have to be put on a blood thinner if you choose the prosthetic valve. Okay. Like you would a mechanical. Here's another great picture of the tissue valves. Okay. Bioprosthetic valves, however, are more susceptible to calcium buildup. You're not going to have calcium buildup on a mechanical because it's not even a tissue. But these are still tissues, right? They're still coated in a tissue. And so over time, like your own aortic valve, this can lead to premature structural valve deterioration. So that's a con, right? So their lifetime is estimated to only be between 10 and 20 years, which might be an issue for younger patients, but not necessarily an issue in older patients. God, doesn't that sound just horrible? You know, if you're a certain age, you have to have this. And if you're younger, we're going to give you this. I don't know. Younger patients who undergo a bioprosthetic valve replacement and outlive their valve will need a second valve replacement in their lifetime because they're younger. So I would suppose that's why patients who are, let's say 70, 80, they're going to probably get tissue if they didn't already have a mechanical. Because if you had a mechanical, you're not going to have open heart surgery to replace it with a tissue. And the problem is you can't do endovascular. Once you have that mechanical, you can't take it out endovascularly, and we'll talk about that. So when you're younger, let's go for the one and done, which is really 20 to 30 years. And if you're older, it's the 10 to 20 years, and you still can replace a bio tissue endovascularly. I'm sure we get into that. So bioprosthetic valves are amenable, here we go, to the technology called valve-in-valve transcatheter aortic valve. So what that means is, picture this. Your surgeon might be able to place a brand new valve inside the old one. So you have your valve, they can launch one that opens up and deploys. And that's doing a less invasive procedure through the groin instead of having another open heart surgery. So as long as you don't have this big like aneurysm waiting to be replaced and it's just a valve situation, they might be able to deploy a valve inside of a valve. And we're going to be talking about that this week, which is next week, because it's going to be in the future. But here you go. So there's your valve, there's your tissue valve. That's what it looks like with this little almost stent-like material that goes inside. So those are the two options that you can have. This is the teaser post for next week when we talk about how do we actually do this and what are your options for doing it. But the main big notable takeaways here are mechanical means anti-blood clotting medication, right? So warfarin, going to be on that. You're going to be checking these things called INR levels, certain changes in dietary, which affects that level. There's also not necessarily negative, but for some people, not all, they can hear it ticking. And for the tissue, it just doesn't necessarily last as long today. I say today because things change in this world. The technology is just changing so rapidly. So that could change in the future. But as of now, no blood clotting medication may not necessarily last as long. You might need a replacement. You definitely will sooner than you would with mechanical. But again, mechanical, you're not guaranteed you couldn't get some kind of an infection, but you're not going to have calcification. bioprosthetic, could have some calcification. All of these things are in the guide. And more importantly, you want to ace this healthcare journey, advocate for yourself, communicate and educate your physician, again, on the lifestyle that you want to live, on your thoughts, knowing this information, and try to come together to make a decision that's going to make you the best patient, the most compliant, and someone who can live their very best life. You are not going to be forced into this decision. You actually have a choice. Okay, so keep that in mind. Ask a million questions, talk to the community, get their thoughts and opinions, and then make a decision on what you think is best for yourself. Okay, that's a lot. It's a lot of words that I need to practice before I come on here. It's been very busy. Anybody have thoughts about that stuff? No? Muted? Maybe? No? I'm winging it today. Maybe Josh is.
Chat is a bit quiet.
Okay. It's because it's too cold. I'm telling you. It's too cold. All right. We are jumping ahead to our Feel Good Friday post for the week. Because it was Valentine's Day, you guys. I want to tell you all how much I love you. Yeah. Valentine's Day. Beautiful reminder. It was. To celebrate the love we give and receive, and to take a moment to show some extra care for our most important organ, our heart and aorta, right? Our hearts are the center of everything we do. But did you know that millions of people live with conditions like aortic disease, which can affect the heart and blood vessels around it? Yes, you did. You knew this. So on Valentine's Day and any day, why do we wait for just one day? We should take a moment to not only spread love, but to also raise awareness about heart health. Adopt a healthier habit. That's a good way to show a loved one that you care about them. Do it for yourself. Do it for them. Check in on loved ones who might be at risk. Check in on people who might be struggling, right? Take a moment to appreciate the beauty of your heart's resilience. We always say, put your hand on your chest. You feel that, right? You're alive. It's a good day. So spread the love. It can be that day, any day. Show kindness, acts of care. Take steps to protect your hearts, your aortas. Because when we care for our hearts, we can share even more love with the world. And we need that right now, right? So that was our Friday post. Friday.
Christina says, don't feel bad. I thought for the longest it was the actual cow heart valve too.
That it was the actual what?
Cow heart valve too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Makes sense to me. Chop that sucker out and sew it right into somebody else's body. I don't know. Hey, let's talk about the Survivor Series, you guys. We had a Survivor Series that went live on Saturday. You want to take this one away, Josh? Because I missed it because I was busy moving furniture.
So this is John Toivonen, and he has been a speaker with us. He actually did our very first live Survivor Series, as well as a prominent speaker there at Rock from the Heart. He's the father of a daughter athlete who isn't good at, her team got eliminated in the hockey tournament that they're going to go see today, or not today, this weekend, right before the symposium starts for Rock from the Heart. But he tells the story of, obviously getting back on his feet, having a complication, and then having that complication turn into the removal of the original surgery and putting in cadaver parts. And so now he's kind of been reconstructed, and he's got a whole different new set of medications, a whole new set of problems. But all of this is within 5 years. 3 open heart surgeries in 5 years. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. God, it reminds me of Tammy. It's amazing. People can have so many surgeries in such a short period of time. It's just, it's amazing. Much strength, right? But what are you going to do? Just get up and deal with it, and you try to keep going. So everybody should check out this story. It's going to be live here on our YouTube channel, and you can go back to just click the live link button, right? Or should they go down and click Survivor Series?
The quick way is underneath programs now. When you hover over programs, you'll see a different list of playlists that we have, and Survivor Series is right there.
And there you go. And you'll see it. And you know what? If you have not signed up to share your story, we would love to have you be a bright, shining star in someone's life, whether you're the caregiver or you're the patient. We want to hear from you. You can do it in written form, which then it's going to get read by some funky computer voice. You can do a pre-recorded, or you can go live like John did and like I am today, and have a chance to tell your story and take questions from the community. Um, we just want to know, like, what was your experience, whether you were diagnosed with aortic disease or you survived a dissection. We want to know what the symptoms were. Like, what brought you in there? Was this something you knew about your family and you wanted to be checked out? That's always an ideal story. We love that. That's a success story. That Think Aorta, they're looking for your stories over there as well. The success stories of having those family medical history conversations. And if that led to you finding out that you have something now that's being monitored, we want to know. If you had symptoms and you went in and found out you were having a dissection, we want to know. We want to know how everything went, because it's really very validating for us who have been through this to listen to your story and listen to the details. And I think it's going to be therapeutic for you to share it as well. So if you're interested, there's a link on this post here from Saturday that'll allow you to sign up. You can go to our programs. There's a link up here as well. And Molly will be in touch with you. Molly or Josh will be in touch to make your story happen and come to fruition. So that is that.
Velda
Hey,
says
you know what else?
John
Yes.
did an
I'm
excellent
sorry.
John did an excellent job of telling his amazing
Yay.
story. And Christina
Go
says
ahead.
it is made from the cow pericardium or the heart sac.
Yeah.
Ah,
But it's not, it's valve.
no.
Yeah, right? It's just like it's tissue. I'm going to have somebody come on here. I'm working my magic right now to have somebody come on, that a doctor we've had before who does a ton of these, to do a lot of show and tell and really take us through how this is made. I mean, I was in Terumo, who makes your grafts, and I watched them make it. And it is mind blowing how they literally, with needle and thread, stitch these grafts together, because, so many of them are made to specification for someone's body, especially if they're having additional branches. Having 3 branches come off the arch of the aorta, it's not necessarily diameter wise or centimeter or millimeter spaces apart. Everybody's body is different. So they have to hand stitch. Nothing is made in a machine. Actually, the material for the graft is all hand spun and woven on big machines and then cut to be used to hand stitch. It is mind blowing. And it is, I think I've talked about this before. It kind of reminds me of like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, because everybody's donned up in these gears with these hats on, and somebody walks around with this stick that's measuring debris in the air. And if it gets to a certain level, everybody has to stop and they do a quick clean of the air and they wiping things down everywhere, and then they go back to work. And for them to meet people who have their products, it just blows their mind away as well. Everybody gets caught up with the blinders on doing their day-to-day job, but when you have a chance to see the human beings that you're impacting and then know their lives that they've been able to enjoy because they have their product in their chests, it's very emotional, and it's wonderful. But there's a lot of time and attention put into these products. And so I would really love to have somebody come out and just show us how they do these valves, and let's learn a little bit more about these cows and pigs, right? That's what I want to learn. I want to learn more about that. Okay, guys. Moving on to some of our hope swag. This was great. We had a bunch of requests come in for this. So these are our new, we've talked about this before. I want to talk about it again. These are our new belt covers. So it's different. We made it easier because we realized having thoracic aortic aneurysm, abdominal aortic aneurysm, aortic dissection, it's all underneath the same category of aortic disease. It's not going to change a thing with a first responder if they read abdominal aneurysm versus thoracic aortic aneurysm. The key here is that you have something wrong that you're being monitored for in your aorta. So you need something that says aortic disease. And these come in red or black. And what I love about these is it's not the neoprene, it's a cotton material. So it is very easy to wash. And when you Velcro them, there is a pocket on the inside that has an emergency card. And on this card, it says your name, emergency contact, allergies, medication, blood type, additional information, and room to write something on the back. So you fill it out, slip that on inside, you wrap the belt cover around your seatbelt, Velcro it, and boom. I mean, boom. It's sitting right on your belt or the passenger seat. Boom. This can also go on a leash if you're walking a dog. It can go on a backpack if you're taking a hike. It can go on a bicycle, right? There's all kind, or a bike. Sorry, I call it bicycle. I know. It can go really many places it can go. And it comes in red or black. And we also offer it with Medic Alert, if that's something you would, if you would prefer as well. So Medic Alert is great for anybody. So if you have neighbors, if they have diabetes, that's so great to have because they could be having a sugar low and might not be able to communicate with somebody that they're having an issue. But for this community, we narrowed it down to aortic disease and Medic Alert. Red and black were always our top sellers. And so we're offering those to you. $18 donation domestically, $23 internationally. There's no cost for shipping. If you make that donation and you fill out the form, we will make it to the post office and get it off to you ASAP. So those have been so well received for many, many years now. And I'm pretty excited about the change. So yeah, hope you get yours today. Don't delay, grab some swag today. All right, events. La, la, la. I can't believe it's already February 17th. I have to start putting up the calendar for God, it's next week. It's like, it's going to be March already. It's amazing. So what do we have left? We have this week. I feel like I'm missing something. Am I missing something this week? No, because we have a lot next week. Yeah, we've got other things I have to add for next week. Look, we've got Therapeutic Thursday this week with John Quick, and I do hear a little noise, a little rumbling. We might have one or two guest speakers coming up in March to talk a little bit about a study that was performed regarding mental health and aortic disease. It's a research study that's been being tracked over the last couple of years. We're going to talk about some of the results that they're finding. I'm going to be speaking about some of these results at Rock from the Heart that's coming up. But you can check out Therapeutic Thursday on Thursdays at 12 o'clock with community member John Quick, who's now also a therapist. We do have, I have to look, I have to know. We have an aorta kitchen. What is it? What are we doing? Oh my goodness, we are doing Mexican food. I always say it's Mexican food. I say it all the time, but this is actually Mexican food. I don't remember what the last one was, but I love Mexican. That's coming up on Thursday at 6 p.m. So Chef Rob is a survivor. Him and his wife, Mindy, are going to go ahead and do some cooking demonstrations for you. And all of the recipes are on the Aortic Hope private page on Facebook. And then we have our Qigong coming up on Sunday, as always, at 12:30. That's free for everybody to enjoy. And again, if you love some of these, feel free to make a donation. We'd love to have that. It really helps us continue these programming. And then we have our very first WISE meeting, Women Inspiring Support and Empowerment with Aortic Disease, or for aortic health. So come to the WISE meeting. It's women's only support group. That is starting this month. We're going to see how that goes and see if it's going every other month or if it's going every month. That's up to you guys. But it's not going to be your run-of-the-mill support group meeting, although I'm really excited that we're going to have some female physicians, everything from cardiologists to surgeons to gynecologists to therapists. They're all going to come on at some point in time and talk to all of us about just managing life and different physical situations and mental health and whatnot as being women. All right, then we have our final support group meeting, general support group meeting of the month. That is always the last Wednesday at 7 p.m. And then we have our aortic artist coming up on the 27th with Diane Bishop. We are finally doing our brush stroke meeting. So we're going to learn how to use our brushes before we take off running for the rest of this year. Now, also, I just added, when did I add Stacy, Dr. Fisher? I put her in, can't remember now, but it's coming up. I think we put her in on the 25th. So on the 25th at 7 p.m., we will have Dr. Stacy Fisher here, and I'll put that information up hopefully in the next 24 hours. So we've got a lot of really great things coming up here, but most importantly, we want to do another shout out and final thank you to Rock from the Heart for being a sponsor of this week's Week in Review. Rock from the Heart, we are headed there. We are headed there in 48 hours to St. Paul, Minnesota. There's still time, you guys. There's still time if you want to grab some tickets, if you can get in the area. I do believe this will also be broadcast, right? Live, I'm pretty sure. So you can check it out virtually. But the way to register, if you go to their events section of their website, you can register to attend or watch that symposium. It runs from 1 to 6 on this Friday, the 21st. Tons of different topics are going to be covered. There's an agenda on their website. And then on Saturday, they are going to be having a community health screening. That is going to include stethoscope screening. And I believe they're doing some echoes. You're going to have to get some more information about that. That's from 10 to 2. You can find out more by clicking that link. And then the highlight of Saturday night is going to be the Spin Doctors. So we're going to get to be entertained if you want by purchasing tickets to see the Spin Doctors. There's also a VIP event that is happening beforehand. You have a chance to buy tickets for that as well. And there's information about how to visit St. Paul in general and what you might want to do. Go check it out. We will be sharing information about their second event in the next couple weeks. We'll start sharing that as well, as they are going to sponsor our weekend reviews again. So that's what we got. It's what we got. We'll be rocking out with Rock from the Heart. I'm going to be giving a little talk about acing your healthcare journey. Can't wait to hear what all these physicians and other speakers have to say. Super excited to meet some new faces and see some familiar ones, and enjoy -4 or 8 degree weather. It's so fun. So excited. Yeah. Can't wait. Any other chatter? Y'all quiet. Everybody's so quiet today. What's going on? We just had a great bingo.
It's
We've been all
quite
lively.
quiet. Yes, it is.
What's going on? You guys? It's because it's a Tuesday. It's because it's Tuesday because
We're
listen, I was supposed to be here yesterday. I screwed up. It was so windy. It took me forever to try to get back. I was out of town, and the delays over a bridge and the wind and the cold, and it wasn't bad. So we had to move it to today. So my bad, you guys, my bad. But do me a favor. Please click like, please click subscribe, share this, because there's some really good information, I think, really valuable information. And when you share it, you just educate others. You help us help others by letting them know that they can come to us for support and resources. So that's what I got. That's today's Week in Review, everybody. Can't wait to share all the fun that we're going to experience at Rock from the Heart with you guys next Monday, and finish out the month with a bang here with a couple wonderful, awesome live events. So you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.